All right, we're going to continue to work on volume. So we're looking for how much the inside of something can hold of that three-dimensional thing. So let's remind ourselves the formula is length times width times height, which we know if we do length times width, that makes the base. So base times height is the same thing. Length times width times height. Base times height will both solve a volume problem for us. Now you might notice your page looks a little different than normal, but I think you're smart and you can figure out where things go. So our first problem here is we are looking for the volume of this rectangular prism. So we just have decimals here. So our lengths, right? Our formula is length times width times height. So we know the length is 7.8. We're going to multiply that by 3.2 for the width, and we're going to times that by 4.5. So length times width times height, we're solving for that volume. So we're just going to go ahead and do the first one first. So 7.8 times 3.2, 2 times 8 is 16, 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. We need that placeholder. 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 2 is 23. So adding those together, so we have 6, 9, 4, and 2. This is like 8 times 3. My answer should be close to 24. I notice I have 2 decimal places. 1, 2. So there is 24.96. Now we need to times that by 4.5. So 24.96 timesing that by 4.5. That's right. When we multiply, we can crisscross our decimals. We don't need to line them up. When we line them up, we're making it harder. When we multiply can crisscross, right? It literally is like a crisscross sign. So 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 9 is 45, plus 3 is 48. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 4 is 28. No, 24. 24. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. Okay, now we're timesing by that 4, so we need that placeholder. So we're done with these. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 9 is 36, 37, 38. 4 times 4 is 16, 17, 18, 19. And 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So we're adding these up. So we have 0 and 12. 4 and 8 is 12 again, plus 1 is 13. 9 and 1 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 9, 10, 11. Now, it's like 25 times 4. 4 quarters is like $1, 100. So my answer should be close to 100. We have 1, 2, 3 decimal places. 1, 2, 3. 112 is pretty close to 100. So our final answer is 112.32. Our label is yards. And now we had to do all 3 dimensions. We're doing 3Ds. The inside, our answer is cubed. 112.32 yards cubed. Okay, so now we're going to go on to fractions. And there's something a little different that we can do than decimals. When we do the decimals, right, we just have to do this one times this one, then times by this one. We can't multiply 3 numbers all at the same time. But as we do fractions, it's going to look a little bit different. So our length is 12 1/4, but we need to make that improper. So 48 plus 1 is 49 over 4. We're going to times that by, the width is 5 5/7, and this is really inches. So there's 35 plus 5 is 40 over 7. And we're going to multiply that by 8 over 1. Now, we're just going to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators, but we want to simplify and make our lives easier. And you don't just have to straight crisscross. I could cancel the 4 and the 8 if I wanted to. I just need a numerator and a denominator to do the same thing too. So find a GCF of a numerator and a denominator, and I can divide. So we're going to start with 4, and I'm looking for things that 4 can go into. I notice it can go into 40 and 8. I'm going to choose to do the 40 just because it's bigger and I want to make my bigger numbers smaller. 8's already pretty small. So I'm going to take 4 and 40 and their GCF is 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 40 divided by 4 is 10. It's going to be a lot easier to times by than 40. Okay, so that's 1. It's as simple as it can go. Now I have a 7. Oh, 7 can go into 49. Their GCF is 7. 49 divided by 7 is 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. So look, my numerator or my denominators are all 1. We're as simple as we can go. So, but we could have simplified any of them that match a top and a bottom, a numerator and a denominator. So 7 times 10 is 70. And we're timesing that by 8. 7 times 8 is 56. With that 0, 560. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So even though you're looking at it, you're like, oh, fractions, like that was actually pretty simple when we simplify it. So 560 divided by 1 is 560. Our label is inches cubed because we're seeing 3 dimensions, what can fit inside of that. So let's try another one of those. So we need to make these all improper, length times width times height. So here we have 18 plus 2 is 20 over 3. I'm going to multiply that by 4, 5 over 4. And we're going to times that by the height of 15 plus 1 is 16 over 5. Okay, so we're looking for things that 3 can go into. It can't go into 20 or 5 or 16. And the only other factor of 3 is 1. So I think 3 is as small as it can go. Okay, we're looking at the 4. 4 can go into 20 and 4 can't go into 5. It can go into 16. I know 20 is bigger, but 16 is kind of a harder number. I know how to count by 20s, 20, 40, 60. I have to think a little bit more about my 16. So I'm actually going to go the 4 and the 16 this time. So their GCF is 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 16 divided by 4 is 4. And now I have this 5. I could do the 20 or I could do the 5. I'm going to choose the 5 this time just because it's going to make it a 1 and it's easy to multiply by 1. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So 20 times 1 is 20. And then 20 times 4, 20, 40, 60, 80. So we would have got the same thing if we simplified this would have been, we would have simplified that to 4 times 5 is 20 times 4. We would have come up with the same thing. So 3 times 1 is 3 times 1 is 3. So now we have an improper fraction. So we just need to simplify. So we're dividing by 3. 3 goes into 8 2 times, which is 6. 2 left over, bring down the 0. That goes in there 6 times is 18. 2 left over. Now, right, we've been practicing bringing down zeros, but this gave us a fraction. So we want to give our answer back as a fraction. If it gives a fraction, we want to give it back as a fraction. So our leftover is 2 out of 3. So our final answer is 26 and 2/3. Our label is feet cubed. We can fit 26 and a little bit more of another cube inside this rectangular prism. Okay, our last one, we have the volume. We know the volume, we don't know the width. So our formula tells us that length times width times height is going to equal the volume. So let's plug in what we know. We're going to substitute these numbers and replace them in there. So we know the length is 16. So 16 times, we don't know the width. So we're just going to keep W. And we're going to times that by the height is 9. And that equals the volume of 300. Sorry, this needs to be 360 to match your paper. So 360. So we're trying to solve for W. We have been practicing this, just barely solving those equations. We want W by itself. So we have times by 16 and times by 9, so we have to do the opposite to both sides. So we're going to divide by 9. So this is times, and if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. So if I do 360 divided by 9, that goes in there 4 times exactly. Now we can't just be like, oh, bring down the 0. Oh, 9 can't go in there. It's not 4. 9 times 4 is not 360. That goes in there 0 times. It's 40. So now we have 16 times W equals 40. We still want W by itself. So W, it's connected to 16 by multiplication. So the opposite is divide. So I need to divide by 16 on both sides. So we're taking 40 and dividing by 16. So 16 can't go into 4, and it goes into 40, 16, 32. There's only 8 more left, so it can only go in there 2 times. It's 32. We have 8 left over. Now this one was not, it was just whole numbers. So we can do decimals or fractions. I'm just going to go with the decimal. So 16, right? 2 times was 32 with 8 left over. So 4 times is going to have another 8 left over, which makes it 1 more time. So we have a total of 5. 16 times 5 should be 80. Let's just double check if my math is correct. So there's 30, 5, 6, 7, 8 went in there perfect 80 times. So nothing left over. Now our answer is not 25. 16 times 25 is not 40. We have that decimal we've got to get in there. W equals 2.5. Oh, and I need my label, 2.5 inches. Now this one is not inches cubed because we're just measuring this distance, this straight distance right here. So it's just inches. Our answer is inches cubed. Our dimensions are just inches. So go ahead and make sure you have those, and then go ahead and finish up by writing yourself a note about anything you can do in the future to help yourself solve these volume problems.